Let's start with something brutally honest. The moment you stop chasing her, she starts noticing you. Not because you became more attractive overnight, not because you suddenly became rich, famous, or mysterious, but because in that silence, you triggered something deep inside her psychology, a mental switch that flips the moment a man pulls away. Sounds manipulative? It's not. It's biological, psychological, and brutally effective. Most men don't get this. They think constantly texting, always calling, showing up, begging for her attention will earn her love and respect, but it doesn't. In fact, the more available you are, the more invisible you become. Let that sink in. You see, when you stop contacting a woman, you force her to feel the absence of your presence. And that's when her brain begins to work against her pride, her ego, and sometimes even her logic. Let's be clear here. This is not about playing games or ghosting for attention. This is about understanding how attraction actually works in the female mind, and why silence, distance, and detachment can sometimes speak louder than words, louder than affection, louder than any romantic gesture you could ever make. So here's the uncomfortable truth. If you've been chasing, pleasing, over-investing, and giving her the emotional spotlight, you've already lost her interest. But when you step back, when you go quiet, when you stop trying to force a connection, that's when the real test begins. That's when you'll see her real behavior, her true feelings, and whether you were ever more than just another guy in her phone. In this video, I'm going to break down what happens when you stop contacting a woman, from the initial confusion to her sudden obsession and the secret behaviors she'll never admit to anyone, except herself. This isn't about bitterness. It's about clarity. It's about power. It's about reclaiming your time, your energy, and your confidence as a man. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Women test men constantly, not with malicious intent, but because it's built into how attraction works. They test your confidence, your boundaries, your emotional strength, and most importantly, your self-respect. And if you always fold, always chase, always respond immediately, you fail that test. But when you stop reaching out, when you let go and allow space to grow, you shift the dynamic completely. Suddenly, she's the one overthinking. Suddenly, she's wondering, did I lose him? Suddenly, she's replaying old conversations, checking your social media, asking her friends what they think. Why? Because you just did something most men are too afraid to do. You walked away from her validation. And let me tell you something controversial but real. The moment you stop needing her validation is the moment she starts craving yours. Women are emotional creatures, smart, intuitive, and incredibly reactive to energy. When you pull your energy back, she feels it. When you stop texting, stop calling, stop chasing, you become unpredictable. And guess what happens when you become unpredictable? You become interesting. That's the exact opposite of what nice guys are told to do. You know the ones, always available, always agreeable, always giving her 100% of their attention, and then wondering why she lost interest. Here's why. Women don't fall in love with availability. They fall in love with mystery, with energy, with confidence. And sometimes silence is the boldest display of confidence there is. Now don't get it twisted. This doesn't mean disappearing and expecting her to crawl back. It means knowing your worth, knowing when to stop giving energy to something that's not being reciprocated. And watching what happens when you remove your presence from the equation. Some women will vanish, some will panic, some will come back harder than ever, calling, texting, liking old photos, asking random questions just to start a conversation. But no matter what happens, you win. Why? Because when you stop contacting her, you stop lying to yourself. You stop hoping she'll change. You stop feeding a dynamic that was draining your masculinity. And you give space for either the truth to emerge or for her to finally realize what she lost when you stopped showing up. That's not a trick. That's self-respect. And for most women, a man who respects himself is 100 times more attractive than a man who worships her. So before we dive deeper, let's make one thing clear. This video is not about manipulation. It's about understanding the psychology of space, attention, and masculine value. Because when you finally stop contacting her, she will react. She will notice, and she will make a choice. And how she responds will tell you everything you need to know. 1. She'll pretend she doesn't care, but she's watching everything. This is the first trap men fall for after they go silent. You stop texting, stop calling, stop checking in, and she acts like she doesn't even notice. She posts pictures like she's living her best life. She laughs louder on Instagram. She's tagging her girls in every single and unbothered quote. And at first glance, it looks like she's moved on without even blinking. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of it is an act. Women are not robots. They don't just detach instantly from someone who once gave them attention, energy, presence. What they do is hide the way they process emotions, especially when they feel like the power dynamic has shifted. And when a man pulls away, it does shift. Suddenly, she's not the center of your attention. She's not the one being chased. And now she's the one wondering, why isn't he texting? Why did he go quiet? Did he meet someone? But will she tell you that? Number. She'll do the exact opposite. She'll pretend she doesn't care. That's the first psychological defense. She'll create distance. Not because she wants you gone, but because her pride is louder than her feelings. She doesn't want to give you the satisfaction of knowing she's affected. So she puts on a mask. This is where most men break. They see the act, they believe the act, and they crawl back, thinking they were forgotten. But what they don't realize is she was paying attention the entire time. Women are experts at indirect observation. While pretending to be busy, happy, and carefree, they're scanning everything. She checks when you were last online. She notices that you've stopped watching her stories. She sees when you post and what you're posting. Even if she never likes or comments, she's observing quietly, consistently, secretly. Why? Because your silence is creating questions in her mind. And questions create curiosity. And curiosity creates emotional tension. That tension, that's the seed of attraction being planted all over again. Now let's bring this down to a real-world example. There's this guy, we'll call him Jordan. Jordan was dating a woman for about 4 months. Things were great at first, constant texting, regular dates, she was all over him. But then she started pulling away, responding late, being cold, acting disinterested. So Jordan did what most guys do. He tried harder. More good morning texts, more compliments, more energy. And the more he gave, the more she distanced herself. Until one day she just stopped replying completely. Jordan finally stopped contacting her. For 2 weeks, complete silence. He didn't check in, he didn't double text, he didn't stalk her socials. He focused on himself, went to the gym, worked on his projects, and stayed quiet. What happened next? She started posting cryptic stories, old photos of them together, quotes about letting go of what's not meant for you. Then she liked one of his photos from 3 months ago. Then she watched his stories every single day, within minutes of him posting them. But still, not a word, until he posted a video at dinner with another woman. Not anything romantic, just casual. That night she messaged him, "Wow, you move on fast." Caught, exposed, emotional. Because while she had been silent, she had never stopped watching. This happens more than most guys realize. Women are taught from an early age to not seem needy or desperate. So instead of reaching out directly, they watch from the sidelines, waiting to see if you'll break first. They act indifferent, but their emotions are burning underneath. That's why silence is so powerful, because it forces her to feel what it's like to not have your energy around. And when you don't chase, she starts to feel that uncomfortable emptiness, that lack of attention, that absence. And what happens next? She starts overthinking. She starts comparing. She starts wondering, did I mess up? Was he the one who actually had value? Did I take him for granted? Now here's the key. If you break your silence too soon, before she feels all of that, you rob her of the chance to realize your worth on her own. You interrupt the very process that could have pulled her back to you. So don't fall for the act. Just because she's laughing on social media doesn't mean she's not hurting. Just because she's posting selfies doesn't mean she's not doubting herself. Just because she seems unbothered doesn't mean your silence didn't shake her. In fact, if she's doing the most to look unbothered, chances are she's deeply affected. Your job isn't to chase or decode. Your job is to maintain your self-respect and observe her actions over time. Because when a woman really doesn't care anymore, she doesn't pretend, she doesn't perform, she simply moves on without a trace. But when she pretends not to care while watching everything you do, you've already won the game without even playing it. 2. She'll test you with silence and mixed signals. This is where things start to get mentally exhausting, but only if you don't understand what's happening. You've stopped contacting her. You're not calling, not texting, not watching her stories. You've pulled your energy back like a man who values himself. And now, instead of clarity, she hits you with silence. But not just any silence, strategic silence. Suddenly, she's nowhere to be found. No posts, no updates, no interaction. And if you were hoping for a message from her, forget it, she's gone. Or so it seems. What's happening here? She's testing you. She wants to see how serious you are about pulling away. She wants to know if your silence is real or if it's just a move to get her attention. So she plays the same game, not to match your silence, but to test the depth of your resolve. This is where most men crack. Because at first, the silence is powerful. It feels like you've taken control of the situation. But then the days pass, and the doubts start creeping in. Is she even thinking about me? Maybe she's moved on. What if she's with someone else now? This is exactly what she wants. She wants to pull you into the emotional fog, the uncertainty, the confusion, the second guessing. Because if she can't get your attention with emotion, she'll try to control you with doubt. Now here's where it gets even more dangerous. She doesn't stay silent for long. Once she feels like you might be slipping away, she sends something confusing, a random emoji, a late night hey, a story post that feels like it's aimed at you, something small, just enough to throw you off balance. That's a mixed signal, and it's not accidental. It's a calculated move to disrupt your progress. Because once you respond, even casually, she knows the truth. You're still hooked. You see, many women won't come back with full vulnerability. Instead, they throw emotional bait and wait for a reaction. That reaction tells her everything she needs to know. If you reply instantly, she knows you were just pretending to be strong. If you chase again, she knows she still has emotional control. If you break your silence first, she knows she doesn't have to earn your attention back. But if you don't respond, if you don't flinch, if you hold the line, that's when things shift. That's when she starts to panic internally. Because you just passed a test most men fail. Now let's put this into perspective. There's this guy, let's call him Malik. Malik was seeing a woman for a few months. She was charming, funny, unpredictable. But every time he got close, she'd pull away, cancel plans, delay responses, say she needed space. Eventually, Malik stopped contacting her. No texts, no reactions, total radio silence. For a whole week, she said nothing. Then, on a Saturday night at 11:42 p.m., a single message. Lowell, remember this? Attached was an old meme they once laughed about. She wasn't trying to reconnect. She wasn't even asking a real question. She was checking to see if the line was still open. Malik didn't respond. No likes, no texts, just silence. What happened? 2 days later, a long message. Hey, I've been thinking about you. I kind of miss us. Now ask yourself, would she have said that if he replied to the meme? Absolutely not. Because his silence forced her to reveal what the mixed signals were trying to hide. She missed him. She just didn't want to admit it first. Here's the brutal truth. Women are taught not to make the first move emotionally. They'll create space, send hints, throw emotional smoke bombs, but they rarely lead with full honesty, especially if they feel like they once had the upper hand. So when you stop contacting her, her pride doesn't want her to run back. But her curiosity, her attraction, her ego, they can't take the silence for too long, so she tests you. Mixed signals are not a sign of confusion. They're a tool. They are a way to get a reaction without risking vulnerability. If you fall for them, you lose your position of strength. If you stay grounded and unmoved, she either steps up honestly or disappears entirely. And either way, you win. Because here's the truth that most men never hear. When you stop reacting to a woman's emotional bait, you force her to be real. She either meets you with genuine connection or she fades out completely. No games, no confusion, no emotional tug of war. So don't chase the message. Don't decode every emoji. Don't get excited by a "hey stranger." Remember, her silence is a test. Her mixed signals are part of that test, and your job is to pass by staying calm, confident, and completely in control. 3. She'll reach out indirectly, but never admit it. Here's something a lot of men don't see coming. She'll reach out, but she won't make it obvious. She won't say, "I miss you." She won't say, "I was thinking about you." Number, That would make her vulnerable. That would admit that your silence affected her. And most women, especially the ones who are used to being chased, aren't comfortable doing that first. So what do they do instead? They leave a digital trail, a story view here, a like on a random post from 2 months ago, a comment on something that has nothing to do with her, but just enough to remind you she exists. You might even hear from her friends, a random follow, a coincidental DM. It's never direct, but it's always intentional. She's trying to trigger a reaction, not because she's evil, not because she's playing a toxic game, but because she doesn't want to be the first to break. And if you've ever been in this situation, you know how confusing it can feel. You're finally focused on yourself. You've stopped reaching out. You're feeling stronger. And then boom, she shows up in your notifications again. Not a conversation, not an apology, not clarity, just breadcrumbs. Tiny signs, just enough to keep her in your mind, just enough to make you wonder if she still cares. And this is where a lot of guys mess up. They take those little signs as proof that she wants them back. They think, she liked my photo. That must mean she misses me. Or she's watching all my stories again. That means she still wants this. But let's be real for a second. If a woman really wants to reconnect, she knows how to communicate that. She knows how to send a clear message. She knows how to say, hey, I've been thinking about you. Can we talk? So why doesn't she? Because reaching out indirectly protects her pride. If you respond, great, now she feels validated. If you don't, she still has her dignity. That's the entire strategy. This happens so often that you can almost feel it when it starts. The sudden shift in her online energy, the random presence, the fake accidental moments where she pops up. And here's what you need to remember. Just because she's around doesn't mean she's ready. And just because she's watching doesn't mean she wants to reconnect. Sometimes it's just curiosity. Sometimes it's boredom. Sometimes it's her ego needing reassurance that you're still affected. It's not always about love. It's not always about feelings. Sometimes it's just her trying to make sure she wasn't the only one left thinking. That's where you need to hold your ground, because when you stopped contacting her, you started something she didn't expect, a shift in control. And now she's trying to reclaim that power, not by facing it directly, but by dancing around it, hoping you'll take the bait. But here's the truth. If you respond to breadcrumbs, you're telling her that you're still waiting, still watching, still hoping. And that's exactly the energy that makes her feel safe, not committing. But if you ignore the indirect reach outs, if you stay grounded and unmoved, you force one of two things to happen. She comes forward genuinely. She disappears because she was never serious in the first place. Either way, you don't lose. You just stop entertaining half-effort behavior. You stop rewarding confusion. You stop mistaking digital noise for emotional connection. Because the truth is, if she really wanted to come back, you'd know it. It wouldn't be vague. It wouldn't be subtle. It wouldn't be some weird online pattern you have to decode. So the next time she likes your post, the next time she views your story seconds after you post it, the next time you get a random LOL, this reminded me of you, DM. Ask yourself, is this clarity or is it bait? If it's not clear, don't chase it. Keep your energy where it belongs, on you. 4, she'll try to regain control through jealousy. Let's get one thing straight. Jealousy is one of the oldest psychological weapons in the book. And when you stop contacting her, when she feels the power slipping, the attention fading, the emotional grip loosening, she may turn to jealousy as her next move. Not always consciously, not always with bad intentions, but it happens, and it works on the men who don't understand what's really going on. This is where a lot of guys need a wake-up call, because the moment she starts posting selfies with that one guy she never mentioned before, or suddenly starts tagging herself at dinners, parties, beach days with guys in the background, or even brings up another man in casual conversation if you do reconnect. She's not doing it because she moved on. She's doing it because she wants to see if you'll react. And guess what? Too many men fall for it. They get emotional. They get insecure. They start asking questions like, well, who's that guy? Or are you seeing someone? They start chasing again, thinking they're about to lose her. But here's the truth most men don't want to hear. You were never supposed to respond to that kind of bait. Because once she knows she can shake you emotionally, once she knows you're still affected by what she does, she wins, and not in the healthy romantic way. She wins control. She wins space in your mind. She wins without even having to speak to you. That's how powerful emotional reactions are. And if you're the kind of man who immediately spirals the moment she posts with someone else, you've just revealed that your emotions are tied to her behavior. That's not strength. That's not leadership. That's dependence. This is where I'll say something that might hit a nerve. Some men need to toughen up, not in a toxic, don't feel anything kind of way, but in a clear-headed, self-respecting way. Because a woman using jealousy doesn't mean she's over you. It doesn't even mean she's serious about the person she's showing off. It usually just means she wants to see if you still care. And it's not always about wanting you back. Sometimes it's just about proving to herself that she still has the power to affect you. Let that sink in. This is why it's so important to stay emotionally grounded, to respond like a man who cannot be shaken by noise. If she's trying to make you jealous, it means your silence is working. It means your absence created discomfort. It means she's trying to pull your focus back to her without having to be vulnerable. And here's the kicker. Once she sees you not reacting, once she sees you completely unfazed, that's when the emotional mirror flips back on her. Now she's the one overthinking. She's the one wondering, why isn't he jealous? Did he really move on? Am I not enough to make him react? She starts feeling what she was hoping you would feel. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. That's the result of you holding your ground and refusing to play the emotional tug of war. So to the men out there, stop folding the moment she brings another guy into the picture. Stop acting like she's the prize when you're the one who stepped back to protect your energy. Stop handing your confidence over every time she posts a filtered story with some mystery man. If she's using jealousy, it's not a power move, it's a panic move. And if you keep your cool, you take that power away completely. Remember, her actions are a reflection of what she's trying to fix inside herself. Your reactions are a reflection of what you believe about yourself. So next time she tries to spark jealousy, don't chase, don't question, don't fold, observe, stay grounded, stay silent, and level up. 5. She'll come back when you've moved on. Emotionally. Here's the irony that hits hard for most men. The moment you finally let go, really let go, is the moment she often comes back. Not when you were texting her every day, not when you were begging for attention. Not when you were checking her stories, liking her posts, and waiting for a sign. But when you detached, when you stopped checking your phone, when you stopped hoping, when you stopped needing anything from her emotionally, that's when something shifts. Because now your energy has changed. You're no longer seeking. You're no longer waiting. You've made peace with the outcome. And whether she returns or disappears completely, you're good either way. And that is when she feels it. She feels the difference. She feels the absence of that old emotional pull. She senses that her name no longer has the same weight in your mind. And for many women, that triggers a reaction they can't fully control. Suddenly, she wants to check in. Suddenly, she wants to catch up. Suddenly, she starts liking old photos, responding to your stories, sending those "hey stranger" messages. And if you've truly moved on emotionally, those messages don't shake you. They don't excite you. They don't make you drop everything and respond. Because by that point, you're not the same man who was once emotionally available at her convenience. You've grown. You've healed. You've realized that you don't need closure from someone who couldn't offer clarity in the first place. And here's the part most men need to understand. You don't attract women by chasing them. You attract them by outgrowing the version of you who used to chase. So yes, she might come back. But by then, you're no longer waiting. You're choosing. And that's a completely different kind of power. It's not about revenge. It's about self-respect. It's about no longer giving someone access to your heart just because they finally noticed what they lost. If she returns when you've moved on, congratulations. Not because she came back, but because you finally didn't need her to. Let's wrap this up with a truth most people are too afraid to say. Sometimes a woman only realizes your value when you stop letting her waste your time. And that right there is the part most men don't want to hear. Because deep down, a lot of you still think being consistent, always being available, and proving your loyalty will win her heart. But here's the reality. Loyalty without boundaries turns into emotional slavery. You end up trapped in cycles of overgiving, hoping she'll finally see your worth, when in fact she already saw it and decided it was too easy. That's the uncomfortable truth. A woman doesn't fall for the man who's always there. She falls for the man who knows when to walk away, not out of spite, not out of pettiness, but because he refuses to participate in a connection where he's undervalued. And when you walk away like that, calm, clear, grounded, she feels it. Not because you hurt her, but because you stopped giving her something she thought she could always get. I want it to be a place where men who are finally waking up, men who are reclaiming their power, can talk about what they've learned, what they've survived, and how they're growing through it. You're not alone in this. You're not weak for caring, but now is the time to stop living for her reactions and start living by your standards. Because once you do that, you don't chase women. You choose from the ones who respect you, and that changes everything. Your attention. That's why silence hits different. It's not cold, it's not cruel, it's clarity. Because in that silence, you're saying, I know who I am. I know what I bring. I'm not begging anyone to see it. And here's what happens next, like clockwork. She circles back, she reappears, she tries to reconnect, and in that moment, you get to decide if she's coming back for you or for the version of you who once let her take you for granted. Now here's what I want from you. If anything I've said in this video hit home, if you've ever been in a situation where you stopped contacting her and started seeing all these behaviors, drop a comment below. I want to hear your stories. No sugarcoating, no filters, just the raw truth. I'll be reading them and I'll be replying because I want this to be more than just another video.